It's a Friday night. Actually, it's not. It's a Wednesday. But we thought we'd do this for Friday night, and I'm here with Mum.
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir. It's actually a Wednesday, so we thought we'd do this to get this out of the way, and then put it up on Friday night after the last one that we
For
did.
your weekend entertainment.
So we got a few things in store here, and hopefully, like I said, I can never tell whether this is actually recording or not, but I think it is. Apparently, it is. So Shirley, Shirley, our conspiratorial friend who lives up. Oh yeah, before we have to do what old me and Serge do. Oh yeah, Mum's got a low one. Anyway. Shirley emailed Mum and said, "Hey, have you seen this?" I'll have a slurp there. And if you remember, if any of you guys and girls out there, I know I shouldn't say guys and girls. Sounds like, well, that's what a load of people say, like Nico No Brain from Iron Maiden. All right, guys and girls. Anyway, for the guys and girls out there who may have listened to my chat with the lovely Mike Williams about my sort of almost connection with the old McCartneys, right? So, as I'd said in that, and that really pretty much, wasn't it, the reason why I actually contacted Mike, was that all these conspiratorial people who talk about whether Paul's Paul or whatever, whatever. I actually shared an apartment and played in a band with a guy who was a very good friend of mine, actually, at the time.
And I cooked for him.
Yeah. And he
came to eat with us several
loads of times.
Yeah.
And
lovely guy.
Old Al was a great bloke, right? And I think there's something very, very, very odd about this situation. As we know, with the way that people are sort of pulled together and so on, and why, like Mr. Mark said, that well, they're all, they're all part of the same group. We won't use the usual word, but they're all part of the same group, aren't they? And that's how they kind of roll, and that's how they work together, because they all know when to keep their mouths shut. They all know what's going on, or a big purport. And this little thing here, as you can probably see on the screen, is a perfect example, and I will explain why. And Mum was upstairs in her little office, and she said, "Here, you got to take a look at this. Look what Shirley's just sent us." Wasn't that right?
It's right, because we were mystified why we couldn't find anything about this particular grandson.
This guy, yeah.
Everything about the other one.
Yeah.
But nothing about this one.
Yeah.
He seemed to have disappeared.
Yeah, so the story is that my old mate, right, who on regular basis we used to go out, there was a bunch of us used to go out, and it's a bit of a long story, but if you want to listen to it, go to Mike Williams' chat on the Sage of Quay, Paul is Dead channel, and you can listen to me rabbit on there with somebody else. But basically, a guy I played in a band with. When I first moved out of home, I moved in with Alistair, right? And I'm not, like I've said before, I'm not frightened of saying anything, and I would love to, well, I would have no problem telling him what I think. And I don't think he's a crook or anything like that, but anyway, my old mate, we played in a band together. We were, for a period of time, we were both on the dole, right, which is on Social Security. I did at the time happen to have paid in, so I was actually eligible to get what I got at the time to do the old rock and roll thing. Anyway, years later, it turns out that my old mate married into this family. And now looking back at it, the chances of that, of an unemployed guitar player marrying into the highest echelon of music royalty is almost impossible, right? Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we never ever thought anything about it until a few things started to pop up once we started looking into things due to the obvious 2020 stuff. And as I said in this chat with Mike, I was trying to track Al down for a long time because I really liked the bloke, you know, and you know, the old band split up and all this kind of stuff. But I really like this bloke, and you know, it's like, well, where did he disappear to? And I actually found him, and I found him on this website through a company that he was involved with. And then, of course, the old story starts coming out, finding out what was going on. You know, these so-called sons, and basically the lie of the land. You know, became like a film producer, and he actually didn't become a film producer. He helped his father-in-law, as most blokes do with their father-in-laws, make a video. That doesn't make you a film producer, right? Okay. And anyway, I found him and I messaged him, and he sent me a really nice message, and I was like, it was so cool to hear from him. And he mentioned a few things about back in the day and stuff like that. And I mailed him back, and I said to him, well, look, you know, if you want to see what I've been up to,
come and visit us.
yeah, and this was only a few years ago.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Why don't
Not
you come?
long ago.
Yeah, why don't you come and visit us? And I never heard from him again. And I think he went to my website at the time, which had my 2020 vision page, and he looked at it and he goes, "Ooh, Gary's onto something here."
Yeah.
And he shut himself off, because you would not after you know, and we're talking.
Well, why respond to you?
Yeah.
And tell you what's going on with him and how he'd love to see you
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah, exactly.
And then cut you off.
Cut me off. And as
completely.
as we talked about, when you looked into Alistair's family, and his dad, who I met, you know, I'm not saying that his dad was anything but what he was, which was one of Britain's one of the last goldsmiths in Cheapside in London. I met his dad a couple of times, right? He was very much like one of those guys like Tolkien, you know, with his tweed jacket and all this kind of stuff. And I knew his mum as well. So anyway, it was only when you started looking into the connections with his dad and royalty, especially Princess Margaret, and we were like, and of course now we're advanced in years, because, you know, we're talking about, I think I was in the band with Alistair in about 1986. So I was 21 then, and I'm 60. 61 this year, so I was 21. And then you look into that and you start looking into these connections, and you go, well, maybe he was lined up to do this. I don't know what. But anyway, cut a long story short, if you want to listen to the full story, go and check it out on Mike Williams' channel. But what Shirley sent us was this thing here, right? So, of course, this is on the old Daily Fail, so you don't believe anything that these clowns come up with. Got all the old trannies at the top here, look. The show boys. Anyway, so we got exclusive. Paul McCartney's lookalike grandson, Elliot, 23, finds love with stunning model, right, hold your breath here, girls, stunning model Stella Jones, the daughter of Clash legend Mick. Mick, right? So, some time ago, I was following the exploits of Al's other so-called son, the older one, who'd gone off to Harvard, and just as we've said before, coincidentally, started dating the so-called daughter of one of the odious people, if you can call them that, to inhabit the earth, i.e. Old Billy Girl Gates's so-called daughter, right? And I was like, really? You couldn't make this shit up, right? So I remember messaging Chris and Dom, didn't I?
Yeah.
And Chris wrote back to me from Sheep Farm. Chris wrote back to me and he goes, oh yeah, well they all like to keep it in the family, don't they? And I messaged Mark Devlin as well, and he goes, I think you got a narrow escape there, because there were possibilities back then of I think of getting involved somewhere along the lines, weren't there?
Well, they had to
And
be, yeah.
yeah, and an old friend of ours, Ricky Robbins, that wasn't his real name, but Rick, who was a guitarist in our band, again, probably after, I think it was after, a long time after I'd played in this band with Alistair. His dad used to look after Paul's deer, didn't he? Out in Peasmarsh, right?
On the estate.
On the estate, right? And these just normal people, right? So you got the elder son, and it said, and I quote, the remarkable resemblance of Arthur Donald to grandfather Paul McCartney. We don't look anything like him. The fact that he's got a nose, 2 ears, and a mouth, don't they? Right? And of course, all the public are going, oh yeah, my God, yeah, doesn't he look right? It doesn't look anything like him, right? So anyway, I said, well, where's the other kid then? Where's the other boy? And you will not, you won't find really any pictures of my old mate with his boys, right? Which seems a little bit odd. Anyway, there's a very long story, but like I said, check out the Mike Williams chat, because I go into it a little bit more in depth there, and I think it's quite poignant, really, because it kind of shows you, doesn't it, how these things are pulled together. So anyway, I'm rabbiting on here, but sorry about this. But anyway, Paul McCartney's lookalike grandson, Elliot, 23, finds love with stunning model Stella Jones, the daughter of the Clash's Mick Jones, right? So anyway, we go up, have a little scroll through here, and you guys might have seen this, right? And I'm like, I mean, I know we don't want to point fingers at people and stuff like that, but really, I mean, what is this? Look at this.
I don't see the point.
Well, not just that, but look where the light bulb is. I mean, somebody's pasted this in, right? So anyway, let's see if we can zoom in here a little bit. Can we zoom in? No, we can't. We can't zoom in here now because it's on there, right? So this bloke here, I mean, Alistair, he
doesn't look like Alistair or the
any
other
of them,
one,
right? He was a good-looking mush, right? And as I've said before, the girls should have been kicking the door down for my mate, but he never had a girlfriend, and I think that's because he was lined up for all this. And we can go into this more in depth, but anyway. So I know we really shouldn't really criticise and shit like that, but that's what we're here to do. I suppose we're not trying to criticise, but anyway. I don't know how many girls out there have got their hair right back here. It's like and got a monobrow. I'm sorry, you know my opinion about this. I've said it before. This looks very much like Phoebe Gates.
Oh, it looks just like
right?
the other one.
Except this one's smiling, where Phoebe Gates, old Peter Gates, the most miserable looking person you've ever seen in your life, right? With a big monobrow. Why is this? Why is this light right here in this region? Are they trying to tell you something here? I know we could be looking into it. Look, what does that look like? Just cut this one out. I didn't see that before, right? It looks weird. And why aren't you smiling? Anyway, all right, we're nitpicking here. So look at this. Right, he's actually smiling here. This is one very tall guy. Now, this is one very small person. Now, Al was about 5'8", I think, about the size of my brother, and Paul is 5'10", right? So this guy is, and of course, as old Serge would say, what are they wearing? Purple. Even the book's purple. That's Max Magenta, right? Okay, purple, magenta, it's all the same thing, right? So, as Matt would say, don't fall for the trick, right? This is all part of the trick. Now, I don't know how old this picture is. We got the old wonky eye club going on in here. Anyway, so we go down here. I don't know. This photograph writing a reminder of life, the getaway. Who has pictures taken on a getaway? This is all, of course, this is all done by design. And there's poor old Mick, right? Okay, and then everybody knows, he did big audio dynamite and everything. So this is pictured in 2007 when he was 70. So he's knocking on in years, right? Now, the reason for bringing this up, like I said, is, this is another person here who's going to be famous for being famous, right? So Elliot appears and Arthur disappears, right? So this guy's now taken over. Yet a little while ago, you couldn't find him, no matter how much. We found one picture of him when he was little. Other than that, and nothing. So you got this. So he's walking along. He's got his old phone out. Somebody just happens to be taking a picture, and of course he's got a pyramid on his jacket. And I know people say, "Oh, don't be stupid. That's nothing." With a little old portal going on, and so on. And then we come down here to these two. So this is supposed to be this girl here, right? Like I said, they've always got great hair, right? I'm not too sure. Just have a look and tell me what you think. And this is supposed to be Kate Moss, his daughter. Lilla Moss, right? So anyway, that's pretty much where it runs out. I will put, and I keep forgetting to put these links in, but I thought this was good one. So nobody's really ever said anything like nasty about, it's just sour grapes and shit like that. But these bods here, they're all born with a silver spoon in their mouth. None of them really look particularly happy, right? He might look a bit cheerful here. But, nobody really looks very happy, whatever. But, there are people that have worked hard trying to get into this industry who never stood a chance. And that's because you're not part of old Dale Murray's family. Right? No. But anyway, so if we look at this miserable person here, whatever, I thought that was quite funny anyway, and a nice one, Cheryl, because we did do a thing about that. And of course, I was connected, not overly closely, but for a good couple of years, with one of the subjects in this. And you won't find any pictures of my mate Al with his boys, which is very odd. So let's just have a look at Mick Jones from The Clash, right? So there's old Mick Jones. Now, as you can see, old Mick Jones is tucking his hand in his jacket. Well, we all know about that, don't we? And of course, it's also a Getty image, which we know about them, right? Now, if you go and take it, and we can't do all the work, right? So go and take a look at Mick Jones and then Joe Strummer. Of course, Joe Strummer's long gone, and of course, that's not his real name. His real name, actually, which you can find out, he's one of those little hat wearers. Yeah. And no disrespect to that, but just coincidentally happens to be one of those little hat wearers. We know about that, don't we? Right? And then go and look at the connections between Joe Strummer, Mick Jones, and his parents or their parents and who they were involved with. It kind of ties it all together. So we thought that was brilliant. And thanks, Shell, for sending us that, because that was a cool one. And of course, these bands, they're supposed to be anti-establishment, right? And the Clash were like the musical version of the punk era, whereas you had the Sex Pistols who weren't, and then so every era has a couple of bands, right? So you got Oasis, Blur, you got Spandau Ballet, Duran Duran, you got the Clash, you got the Sex Pistols, you got Genesis, you got Pink Floyd. There's always one band against the other, right? You got the Beatles against the Stones, right, with our good old Mick, right? All controlled assets, even if they actually really genuinely didn't start off that way. So, you know, and these are supposed to be, you see my little mouse going around here, anti-establishment, and then you find out that actually they're all part of the establishment. So that was a good one to look at. I will send you the links for those, and I promise I'll do it this time. And we'll get rid of this one here. And the next one we're going to get onto, once this is out of the way, we're going to just do a little recap on this little chap here.
This one.
Now, this is, we brought this up a little while ago, and we were hoping that we'd actually hear something, but of course we didn't. So we're going back to the old yellow and blue, you know, what with other than the old the old trannies, that my favourite subject is the old yellow and blue. And isn't it funny how the Guardian, which was the first newspaper to post this, just happens to be yellow and blue?
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
So anyway, go on, Mum. You tell the story here, right? You can read it here. What does it say here?
Ukrainian refugee leaves UK sixth form college that urged her to study Russian.
Right.
So we get in touch with the, we find the...
Yes, old Sturge was here, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we find the university, the college.
And we have a good look.
Yeah, yeah.
To see, and we both actually had a couple of glasses of wine, so bear with us. So the first thing you see is, of course, no disrespect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Do we see some dodgy, ugly-looking bird?
No.
No.
It never is.
Do we see some
Never
fat, out of condition, whatever? Oh no. We've got a cute girl here. Looks like she's probably from Turkey, right? With probably could do with a bit of conditioner or something, I expect. But right, pouting, you know, like, well, come on, no, it's all frizzy. Give me a break, right? Okay. So, and of course, you remember we said the Endersby, right, with Penelope from the assassination meteorological department of the UK. This person's name is Enderberea. This one's got end in it as well. So you're supposed to believe that this person here escaped from that country, went to, where did he go to in the first place?
Czech Republic.
Was it the Czech Republic?
Yeah.
That didn't work out. So this person then moved to Stoke On Trent in 2022, right? Now, how the fucking hell do you afford to do that? I mean, seriously, I know we shouldn't swear and curse and shit like that. How do you afford to do that, right?
Well, there you go.
Okay, so Czech Republic, not good enough, because this is a bullshit story as well. This is all part of the trick, Matt's trick. This is rubbish. It's the same picture on every single news report, right? And everyone's like, oh, it's such a shame, isn't it? It's like, why? Why is it a shame that this person has had to leave a sixth form college in the UK that you're paying for? Apparently, we know that's rubbish, right? This is just another facial actor, right? Okay, because the story was that this person was being forced, there you go, the Ukraine Czech Republic, where she initially moved. But not everyone realises how challenging it can be for a Ukrainian student to adapt to a new education system, culture and language after everything our country has gone through. BS. World class bullshit. Oh look, and it just happens to highlight in yellow, right? So it didn't work out in the Czech Republic. You moved to Britain, where it still hasn't worked out for you, but the taxpayer's paying for it. And what is so funny about it is that, you know, when you have discussions with people like we know, they think this is perfectly acceptable, yet there are English families who can't afford to send their kids to these sort of things. Not that you should be sending them anywhere in the first place, right? But you can just move in, right? And then when it doesn't work out for you, oh, I'm going to leave and I'm going to study at home. So here's another one for you to read up on, right? But the funny thing about this was...
we put it to the test.
We put it to the test.
Didn't we? This was over Christmas.
Just before Christmas. Just before Christmas.
Yes, we put it to the test.
So old Serge gets onto the Stoke on Trent hire,
their website.
Their website to find out if they in fact teach Russian of all things at Stoke on Trent. The answer is
no.
No, they don't, right?
Not in their curriculum.
Not in their curriculum.
No.
So Serge, in his police officer type manner, wrote them a very nice message and basically said to them, we're looking at sending our daughter to Stoke on Trent, blah blah blah, and asked a few questions and asked, one, do you force on students certain curriculum, right? And number two, do you is part of your curriculum learning Russian? Never heard back from them. That's because this is another bogus story with bogus people. They never ever reply, do they?
No.
Right?
No,
well, anyway, we thought that was a good one
right.
because, again, this is how these marketing people work. Because what they're doing is they're looking at how they can keep these narratives moving. And when you look at this photograph in England was filmed by Fabio de Paola. Not Colin Smith or John Brown or Susan Collins. Oh no, it's got to have some stupid name, right? This is all bogus. We thought that was a good one because, again, it's more about showing people, as we've said, how easy it is to play the boo-hoo, poor old me, sympathy vote, and they get it, right? So we thought that was a good one to reflect on. We'll get rid of that. Let's get rid of that one there. If we can. There we go. Right. So we got that. So the little narrative with it was, here we go. Moved to Stoke on Trent after fleeing the old yellow and blue in 2020 after the start of the Russian invasion. Took GCSEs at the Excel Academy in 2023 before completing a foundation year at the City of Stoke on Trent sixth form college and then studying economics, politics and that. Who pays for that?
Yeah.
Who also pays for that person to stay? And look at, there it is. This is another one here. BBC, woman who fled Ukraine marks special graduation, right? And you can't get your kids in. Look, there it is again. Same one here. Look, there it is again. It's more manufactured, Matt's not nil bullshit, right? Very funny. There was another thing I was going to talk about, and we were going to, because we don't want to go on too long, and I always do. Was that old Shirley had said about how Kev Perry is now dating old Justine Trudeau. I think we mentioned that in the other one, do we? I don't know.
I think
it's hilarious, right? I mean, come on. So that bloke's dumped his wife, partner, kids, and all this to date some old boiler that's been around the Hollywood music industry block, and there was a great picture of old Kev with his sagging boobs and his wonky eye and all that, not looking so great these days. And it's like, if it wasn't manufactured, if it wasn't fake, it would never ever happen, right? Never. I thought that was funny anyway. So over the last few days we've been talking about the fact that we've had this non-stop flights of aeroplanes over our roofs, which the girls commented on the other day. And today and yesterday, especially Tuesday, it was non-stop, wasn't it? From about 9 o'clock in the morning till about 6 o'clock in the evening. So we've actually written a letter
To the Conseiller General.
Yeah, the Concierge General, who obviously works for the man, right, saying, we've had enough, you know, and pointing a few things out just to get it listed. And I'm sure there's other people who've done this, right? So, anyway, I decided to have a quick look today. There was another thing we were going to pull up here with this band who've been around for decades now, and I won't even go into it. I mean, why would we even go there with this? It's just... Anyway, we'll get rid of that because it'll go on too long. That's another one for another day. The last one about Notre Dame we're going to talk about. But anyway, so I decided, has the police public support fallen in the UK? Right? Because we're talking about government so-called expenditure, which we know is all BS, right? So apparently in the UK, according to this, the College of Policing, people in the UK are not very happy with the old fuzz, right? Okay, so, okay, fine, we'll give you that. And it also says about how it's underfunded. So I thought, let's have a look and see what people think about the old fuzz in France, right? Where we live. Anyway, it turns out that apparently thousands turned up for national rallies in support of the French police force, right? Which we find very, very hard to believe because there's not an awful lot of people who like the modern day, let me alliterate there, the modern day fuzz. 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 20 years ago, yeah. But after the behaviour that you saw of these we're on the square characters in 2020 and 2021, why anybody would trust these bods, I don't know. And there are some nice blokes and girls out there. We've seen them on these videos, very smiley, very helpful. So anyway, it says here, thousands of protesters, including far right, of course, rallied across France on Saturday afternoon, around about where they were told to be by the government. Organised by the Alliance Trade Union, rallies were held in 20 cities, which we didn't know anything about this, did we?
No, nothing.
And it said here, gathered behind a banner reading citizens with the police. Stop insecurity, stop impunity. The protesters marched through central Paris. All cops are heroes. I'm sorry, no they're not. Anyway, we just thought this was funny because it says here apparently they're all fed up with the fact that they're underfunded and so on and so forth, right? Now this takes us in a little nutshell directly back to these clowns flying about in the air, right? Yeah. So as we said in the video the other day, and we're only using the French here because we live here, right? Ministries, the armies, right? The overall ministry budget supplies amounts to 49.2 billion euros, pensions excluded, 58.7 billion euros, pensions included. This is for the defence budget of 2024. 3.3, of course, 3.3 billion euros more than in 2023, right? Okay, so the police are underfunded, yet a group of bods who don't seem to do sweet FA apart from fly about over our fucking houses, pumping all kinds of shit into the air.
All day.
Get all this money, right? So on the French military, French Air Force YouTube channel, which I won't even bother to pull. It literally is a Top Gun movie minus dodgy little Tom Cruise. All high-fiving each other. It's just a joke. It's pathetic, right? But you can't put these two things together, right? And this proves, once again, Matt's trick about how this is all a trick. This is all by design. This is the people at the creepy table, right? Because you can't have this and have this. It doesn't work like that. And that again proves, as we've said before, that the money that they maintain exists just doesn't exist, does it?
No.
It can't do.
How can
It can't do. And it's just another way of them sort of holding, basically holding people to ransom, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But after the an old fiery on the old channel, you know what they've had to put up with down where she is. I made a little update clip which I haven't even bothered to put up. Right, we did get a little bit of clear sky the day after old Serge left, didn't he? The other day, and everything was just fuzzed out. You could see all the lines in the sky and all this kind of stuff. Usual old story. We said we wouldn't do anything about the planes and that again, but nevertheless, when you look at the amounts of money they're supposed to spend, and then you look at, you know, people who are supposedly getting out in the streets to support the police. Why anybody would go out and support the police in modern day society is beyond me.
I don't believe it. I think it was all arranged.
Of course it was.
I can't imagine that number of people
No.
would be in agreement with it.
No.
I can't.
No.
Not
And
after everything, excuse me, that has gone on.
No, and what they've been up to. And also, like we said before, is that, you know, we need, of course, like I said, the word police comes from the word policy. And you think they work for you, but they don't, which is why they all wear the checkerboards, right? They police the policies that are put into place by those at the creepy table. But the guys and girls that work there don't realise they're doing that.
No.
You know, because they're not that bright. The same as me. You know, we're not that bright. We don't realise what we're getting involved in. And they don't realise what they're getting involved in, right? But nevertheless, that's who they work for. But it is funny to see this and to, you know, they're all heroes. Why? Why are they heroes?
Heroes for what?
What about all the firefighters and that save people from burning buildings?
Yeah.
And the old police have done a lot of shitty old jobs in the past, as old Serge will tell you. So it's not a dig at that. It's more of a dig at the modern day, the crooks that they've hired in. And like we said, as far as I'm concerned, I've got a meeting next Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
With the association here. And I'm going to write it out and say to them, is anybody else pissed off with these planes? Right, with Macron's mercenaries, because that's basically what they are. But anyway, we're going to get rid of that one now. And we're just going to end this with one that we wanted to talk about for some time. And we brought this up before. And we wanted to bring up about a guy we know. He's not a close friend of ours, but he's a kind of friend of ours.
An acquaintance.
An acquaintance. He's a Frenchman, and he runs a machine. One of I think it's 3 in the world, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. That is this computerized 3D. It's not 3D printing, but basically what they do is they get this massive piece of marble in. They then program in all the statistics of a statue. And this machine goes to work and basically carves this statue. But it doesn't look anything like the real thing. It kind of looks good until you look up close and then you're like,
yeah.
Right? Anyway, this thing's worth millions of euros, right? And he got bought in, he was bought in to work on the restoration of Notre Dame, right? And as our dentist said, which was burnt down by Macron and his clowns. So here we've got here the cost of rebuilding Notre Dame is expected to be that. So this is pre, and then this is what we got down here. It says in total nearly $900 million was raised through donations by 340,000 donors. I find that very hard to believe, don't you? 340,000 people would chip in to rebuild this. So to rebuild the roof, because basically that's what it was, the roof. So anybody who see, we're not going to go over it. It's all old school stuff. It's the old guard stuff. First glimpse of Notre Dame after 5 years of reconstruction. So it took all this money and time and massive amounts of scaffold and clipper board and hard hats and you name it, right? And of course you got this lovely old big old checkerboard floor whacked right in the middle. Of course you have, looks like they've given it a coat of emulsion and all this kind of stuff. But what was funny about this, now me and old Serge, we were going to start it with this actually, but me and old Serge, we've just spent, well, he has especially, he's just remodelled his kitchen by basically rebuilding it himself. So he hasn't bought anything as such. He's just used a lot of paint and some nice new
Taken
handles.
things to pieces.
Yeah.
Repainted them. And
it's come up a treat. Looks like a real old country
Looks
kitchen.
fab,
But
yeah.
both of us have built banisters. One in a stairwell that we've got that goes down to the studio, and old Serge has done his, which is his main stairs going up in his house. Now I've been in the building for a long time, right, and I'm quite good at it. But to get something cut straight and to just to get things to fit, as anybody out there knows, is very difficult. And even if you've got the right tools, it's very, very difficult, especially in a place like this where the walls are slightly out, they taper in as they go up from the foundation, don't they?
Yeah.
So on this floor, they're like 90 down at the basement.
Well, if it's an old building, it's moved, doesn't it?
Yeah, and everything
Nothing
moves.
is straight.
Nothing's straight, right?
No.
So when you see, it's taken me 2 days to do this little job, which is 3 posts, a main part and a side. Not 3 days solid, but you know, in between a few glasses to the old hang on wine. When you see these massive staircases made of granite and marble, you do have to ask the question, how was that even possible in 1860? And the answer is, it wasn't. And as you can see in this little picture of old Notre Dame here, right, it wasn't possible to do this under any which way circumstance. And when they talk about all these candles and all this kind of stuff, like old, what was his name? I can't remember what it was, but anyway, he said, David Wayne, he goes, first off, who's going to light all these candles? And secondly, what, they're all going to drip all over the floor? It's like, no way. You know, no way. It's absolutely out of the question. Now, the proof of this was that, and we may have mentioned this before, so again, repetition is the key. We went to a little dinner, didn't we?
And I asked the question.
Yeah, Mum asked the question. I went, don't ask him. And Mum said, she goes, go on.
You've been working on Notre Dame. Can you tell me how they were able to do what they did in the day? Back then, without the tools. How did...
And he knew, didn't he?
Oh.
He knew exactly. He didn't say, well, but to be honest, madame, I don't know.
I expected him to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Weren't able to, you know.
Yeah, and what he said was, there were thousands of blokes here.
With hammers
and chisels who were quite happy to knock this up. And Mum said, you don't believe that, do you? And he went, yeah. Now, he is from a family of stonemasons.
Stonemasons.
Right?
The whole family.
Fifth generation, right? Isn't he fifth or fourth generation?
He's quite,
and this bloke, anyway, so you go, all right, mate, no problem, right? But the icing on the cake, this was what it was. A friend of ours up the road, Gilles Das and Ghislaine, they asked me and Serge and a few of our friends if we could go over and help them move in a marble countertop they got for a centre aisle for their kitchen, because they've just had this place restored, and they've just moved in, haven't they, really? Just before Christmas. Couple of French people, real nice. He's a bit of a wine guy and everything, so yeah, of course we will. So there was a big piece, I don't know what it was, let's say it was 3 metres, 2.5, 3 metres by $1.20 m, something like that. About 1 inch thick, something like that. 35 millimetres thick. And then another piece that the sink was going to go into. And we never quite got to the bottom of where this piece of marble came from. But anyway, we were frightened to death it was going to break in half, right? So Alain, this guy, he comes down, and they live up near Paris, and he's going to cut the hole for the hob, and he's going to cut the hole for the sink, right? So it's already kind of like pre-marked out. So like with a water cutter, they've cut the line. All he has to do is cut out the piece, but he can't cut out the whole piece because that then only leaves about 50 mil, 2.5 inches, whatever, of the thinner part, the front of the countertop, which could easily break, right?
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, so he said, well, what I'm going to do, all in French, of course, this is, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the corners. I'll cut out the 4 corners, and then we'll cart it in, and then I'll cut the piece out and it'll drop out. Sounds great idea, mate. So anyway, we watched this guy, professional, with a Hilti grinder cutter, which is sort of like a fairly biggish one, I suppose, I don't know, about a foot long. Expensive. With 2 special discs, and it took him 2 hours to cut out 8 triangles, corners, about the size of small wedges of cheese. So about, let's just say, millimeters, 70 by 70 by 70. 2 hours, right? And in the middle of the last bit, one of the discs that are about 100 and something euros a piece exploded, right? Fortunately, it didn't hit anybody in the face. This is the honest truth. And he cut him out. He was completely white, looked like he was covered in cocaine. Not that I would know about that. Of course, I wouldn't. He looked like he was covered in white powder. 2 hours to cut out 8 corners, and the pieces, if you laid them down, they wouldn't have made up the size of a kitchen tile. And yet this bloke maintained that all this shit was chipped out with hammers and chisels.
Yeah. Absolute rubbish.
He has got to be one of the...
I couldn't believe it.
He has got to be one of the stupidest people I think I've ever met. And he's a nice bloke too. And the other thing, and we'll end on this, which was quite funny, was that there was a picture of him on top of Notre Dame. And if I could find it, I'll see if I can find it and put it in a later post. And they lifted was it 6 ton or 16 ton? Oh. Anyway, something like that. Know. This giant piece of stone up on top of the roof, right, into this area on the roof where nobody goes. Why would you even put that up there unless it served a purpose? They had to get the biggest crane in Europe to be able to lift this thing in 2 stages, right? And there's a picture of him standing next to this massive monolith of stone that's laying horizontally, and he reckoned they pulled that up with ropes and pulleys back in the day. You must be out of your fucking mind, mate, to think that is possible. And there's so much to it. So, all the old world stuff, everything that we look at. And I think this is why it's important, isn't it, Mark's just done a brilliant thing. Mark Mystery's just done a brilliant thing on the castrados, on all these so-called girl singers with deep voices. I'll put a link if I can remember for that one as well, but it's worth watching. But there's all these little things that are all deceptions, aren't they?
I don't think we'll ever know. We'll never know how it was done.
We're not meant to, are we?
It's absolutely fantastic, but we'll never know how they did it.
No.
Sadly.
But it's there.
I'd love to know how.
It's there, and you can go and see it and touch it and all this kind of stuff. But all these stories...
It certainly wasn't hammers and chisels.
There's no way you could do that,
No way. No.
One false move and it's over, isn't it? I mean, we were worried about putting 3 bolts through the floor to fix the newel post down in case that went wrong in a concrete floor.
Yeah.
So anyway, we thought we'd do a little one on these few little sujet subjects and everything, just throwing a few things out now. And That's about it, isn't it? I don't think there's anything else.
Doesn't. Not
But
at the moment.
yeah, thanks for the old comments, guys. The ones that do. I think, like we've said, it's a bit weird. I think I was shadow banned a long time ago, and I also think that, like we said, is my channel was primarily the music stuff. So I think a lot of people that were into the music stuff don't, like our Jolene's got about 170,000 views and stuff like that. But people just aren't interested in this. They cannot see what is right in front of them, and it's so obvious. And I think, like we said, we're fortunate enough, we don't know all the answers. I think Matt, again, he's right in so many ways. Don't fall for the big trick. It's like the Olympics stuff. They've done all the opening ceremonies, all flames and shit like that. Everyone's doing devil's horns and stuff. Don't fall for the big trick, but realise that there's the reality that we live in is not. If it was real, they would never get away with this. And I think that's part of it, is that the reality is not what we thought. And it's certainly nothing to be afraid of, is it?
No.
But
God,
it's something to soak up, and also to I think to get you closer to people that you're more in tune with. And that doesn't mean you've got to be horrible to other people either. There are some people I'd like to be horrible to, but you're not supposed to be like that. There are some people I'd like to take my day out on. And I think most of you would know they are, but we're not supposed to do that. So it's all part of playing the game. So anyway, what else have we been watching lately? Just quickly, we've been watching lovely old
Keith Floyd.
Keith Floyd. Right, all these celebrity knobhead chefs, forget them. Just watch Keith Floyd. Back in the day. Keith Floyd and Rick Stein. Right, Rick Stein's 80. This year, Keith Floyd. We know
no longer with us.
We know they all work for the system and everything. But what a lovely thing to watch this guy drinking and enjoying wine and all this kind of stuff. I know it's BBC and that, but to see people, no skank tattoos, no mobile phones out, people gawking at their phones, a bygone era. And again, I'm not anti tattoos. I'm just anti skank tattoos, and you know what I mean about that, right? But anyway, we'll end it on that, and we're going to have some dinner, and then we're going to watch a bit more of Keith Floyd. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys, and yeah.
Bye for now.
Bye for now. Au revoir.
Au revoir. Till the next time.
Let's see if this ends this time.